If you're planning on buying a house in New Jersey, you need to understand the whole home buying process here. So this week, I'm going to talk to you about what takes place from the time your offer gets accepted all the way to the closing table. And I'm going to talk about everything in between. So if you're thinking about buying a home, this is for you. So let's get started. I get asked this question all the time. What is involved when you're purchasing a home in New Jersey? What are all the steps that are necessary? So it is different from other states. Look, we border New York, and New York State has a slightly different process than how we do things here in New Jersey. So if you're going to be buying a house, you need to understand what takes place. So I'm going to go over that with you right now. But before we get started, I just want to tell you, my name is Jackie Baker, and I'm a realtor here in Bergen County, New Jersey. I so appreciate you being here on my channel. Thanks for joining me today. If you like what you see today, can you do me a big favor and hit that like button? And if you really like what you see today, can you hit the subscribe button as well? Thank you. Okay, so congratulations, you got your offer accepted. Oh, yay! In this crazy market, it is such a challenge, and I get so excited when my clients get their offers accepted. So what happens once that offer is accepted? So let's just step back a little bit. I just want to explain to you, how do we get that offer accepted? So in New Jersey, there is a standard New Jersey real estate contract that the real estate agents fill out, and everything is pretty much in this contract, all the legal stuff that's in the contract. And there are spaces for the realtor to fill out, like such as the offer price, the deposit, the down payment, terms of the mortgage, details about the inspection contingencies, things of that nature. So once all that is filled out, the buyer signs it. We then present that to the listing agent. And then when the seller accepts it, the seller then turns around and signs that contract as well. And then we have an executed contract. From there, that executed contract will go to the buyer's attorney and to the seller's attorney. And then we begin the first step of the process, which is attorney review. Typically, attorney review lasts about 3 days. Sometimes it goes longer. It all depends, say if it falls over a holiday or if the attorneys are really busy and they can't get to their clients in time. It does happen, so just be patient with this. It can go a little longer. I've been in situations where attorney review lasted a week or even longer. I've also seen attorney review get concluded in 1 day, so it all depends. So typically what happens when you're in attorney review, the attorneys are going to disapprove the contract that was signed. Now don't panic, this is normal. Then what happens is they make modifications to the contract and they make an addendum. So there's a going back and forth period here over those 3 days where the buyer's attorney and seller's attorney are going to make those modifications to the contract, and then once both parties agree to the modifications, everybody will sign off on it, and then we go into the next step, which will be then under contract. Before I get into the under contract step, I wanted to just mention this to you. During the attorney review process, offers could still be submitted to the seller. Yeah. And the seller could accept another offer if it's higher than yours. Typically, if the seller does receive an offer that is higher than yours, they will come back to you and ask you if you can match that offer. If you can match it, awesome. If you can't go any higher, then you're kind of out of luck. The seller may opt to go with that higher offer that came in during attorney review. Listen, I get it. It's frustrating. I had this happen to a client this past year. We were in attorney review and we got blown out of the water because a higher offer came in. It was so upsetting. But look, it happens. So just keep that in mind. Like, even though you're in attorney review, don't get too excited, because at that point it could still fall apart. Now we're under contract. So once we're under contract, you're pretty much guaranteed you're safe, because you now have a binding contract. So that means the listing will then not go active anymore on MLS. It'll be listed as under contract, and you'll see, like on Zillow or Realtor.com, the property will be listed pending. So the house can't be shown anymore, and there's no more offers can be submitted at that point, nor can the seller even look at any other offers. So once you're under contract, it's binding. It's between you and the seller. Now, what happens when you're in the under contract phase? Well, this is where all the work gets done. Now, let's get into the inspections. The home inspection needs to take place 14 days from when you go under contract. Sometimes it's 10 days, sometimes it's 7 days. It depends on if the buyer wanted to tighten that deadline to make their offer more attractive. But typically it's about 14 days choice that you have to get your inspections done. And I'm talking about your standard home inspection, oil tank sweep, septic inspection, radon testing, if you want to test for any mold. All of that stuff needs to get done in that 14-day period. If you don't get that done, then you're buying the house as is. You can't go back to the seller after the 14-day period and say, hey, you know what? I decided I wanted to do an inspection because there may be something wrong with the house. Look, you can probably do an inspection, but at that point, there's no negotiating any issues that you may find with the house. So once you have your inspections done, you go back to your attorney and you say, the inspection report shows A, B, and C is wrong. We need to have that repaired. So at that point, both attorneys will get together and talk about that, what the buyer would like to have repaired or have a credit issued, and they go back and forth and negotiate that with the seller. Now, can the deal fall apart at this point? Absolutely. I've seen it happen several times where deals fall apart over inspection issues. Look, the seller can opt not to make any repairs or not issue any credit. Look, that's their prerogative, that's their choice, and the buyer can then choose to walk away at that point. So if both parties can't come to an agreement regarding the home inspection issues, it can fall apart. A lot of times it doesn't. For the most part, buyers and sellers do want to work with each other to find a common ground and make everybody happy and proceed with the sale. Now, once the inspection contingency is done, the next thing we're waiting for is your mortgage commitment. Your mortgage application should begin immediately. Once you're under contract, you need to get with your lender to get the ball rolling and get that loan approved. So you got to gather all of your financial information, such as your tax returns, your pay stub. They're going to do a credit check, all that fun stuff. So get on it immediately as soon as you're under contract, because typically it takes about 30 days to get a mortgage commitment. Now, getting that commitment is important. It's a huge part of the deal because it's assuring the seller that you not only qualified for a loan, you are actually approved. It had gone through underwriting and you're guaranteed you're going to be getting that loan. So plan on that about 30 days to get your mortgage commitment. Now, the next part is the title and survey. Once the mortgage commitment is obtained, your attorney is then going to contact the title company to begin a title search. The purpose of the title search is to go back and research the property to make sure there are no liens against the house. I mean, we're talking any unpaid taxes, if there's any other mortgages tied to the home, things like that. So basically, we're looking for a clean title. We don't want to have any liens or any mortgages tied to this property. Now, can it fall apart at this point? Oh, absolutely. I had a situation like 5 years ago where this is really odd. This seller had a line of credit on the home, but they paid it off, but the bank who had the line of credit went out of business and was taken over by another bank, and they never got the payoff letter from the original bank. We literally had to wait 2 weeks for that seller to obtain the payoff letter from the new bank. Another time, I did have a situation where the house never closed because it never got a clean title.
Oh.
I will not go into that story right now. I cringe every time I think about it. Yeah. Not good. Now, a survey will also be ordered. The purpose of the survey is we want to make sure that that parcel of land does not have any encroachments, there's no easements, and there's no zoning issues. Now, a lot of times the sellers will already have a survey, and which is great, but if this survey is pretty old, like if it was done, I don't know, 20, 30 years ago, your attorney will more than likely obtain a new one just to be on the safe side and make sure everything is still good. Okay, now we're getting close to closing. This is exciting. So a couple of days before your closing, you're gonna get from your attorney the updated figures that'll be due at the closing table. So at closing, you're gonna need to be paying for those closing costs, such as your attorney fees, any bank fees, recording fees, things like that. So you're gonna be going over that with your attorney in detail to know exactly how much you need to bring to the closing table. Now, the day of closing is when we do the final walkthrough. During the final walkthrough, you're going to walk through the home with your real estate agent, and you're going to be checking to make sure everything is in good working order. You want to make sure that the lights are working. You're going to check all the appliances. You're also going to be looking, checking the faucets, turn the water on, make sure that there's hot water running, checking the heat, the AC, all of that stuff. Make sure everything is in good working order. And if there were any items that came up during the inspection that the seller was supposed to repair, you're going to be checking to make sure that that repair was made. Now, what happens if something is found during the final walkthrough? What do we do? Like if something wasn't fixed or if there's some new damage that we discover. I'll get into that in a minute. Okay, so now the day has finally arrived. We are at the closing table. Closings usually take place at the buyer's attorney's office. And what's going to happen here is you're going to be signing your life away. I literally get writer's cramps watching my clients sign these documents. We're talking like it's that thick. It's a lot of paperwork, but it's so worth it in the end. So now what happens? Let's go back. So say at the walkthrough, you found that there was an issue with the house. What happens then? So it can be brought up at the closing table, and a couple of things can happen. The attorneys will work it out. Either they will hold money in escrow from the seller, they'll hold some of the proceeds in escrow until that item is corrected, or depending if it's a small one, if it's a small issue, sometimes the seller will just write a check right there to the buyer to cover the cost, whatever the repair needs to be. So those things do get resolved at the closing table. I have yet to see a closing not happen while we're sitting at the closing table over issues. You know, I've seen some heated arguments go back and forth where they're threatened, you know, I've seen a lawyer threaten to like walk away from a deal at the last minute over some issues that were with the house, but in the end, buyer and sellers usually just work it out, and it turns out to be just fine. So there you have it. There's the whole process from accepted offer to the closing table. And if you really like this video today, I really think you're gonna like this one over here. I think you're gonna learn a lot from it, so feel free, go check it out. Thank you so much for watching today. I am Jackie Baker with Coldwell Banker Realty, and I will see you next time.